Well, ahoy, hoy. Lovely to have your company on a Saturday. Arvo heading towards the 3 o'clock kickoff. They are the Raiders taking on the Gold Coast. A full dance card of rugby league. North Queensland West Tigers follows that, and all wrapped up with the Brisbane Dolphins match, which will be brilliant. Ben Teo will be taking particular interest in that game. He joins us along with Ryan Girdler.
Hey,
Yes, Ryan.
Hey, Tone, did you kick our show off with an ahoy hoy?
I did go. I went ahoy hoy today. It's just how I feel ahoy
How long
hoy.
have we been doing? How long have we been doing this show for?
10 years? 10 years, probably, yeah.
I've never heard you kick off the show with a hoy hoy.
No, I've done one ahoy hoy. I
Okay.
have, yes, I remember it well. It was, and the show was really the better for it. But I
there you
thought I'd
go.
just hold back on because you have to be feeling ahoy hoy.
Yeah.
Dave, Ricky, you don't
Yeah.
look like you're feeling ahoy hoy.
No,
Was it
it's
premeditated hoy hoy?
What?
Yeah, that's
No,
right.
well, 8 seconds.
It's almost like when a coach picks the right game to give their team a spray.
Yes.
And this is what Tone's doing. He's sending him a subtle message
is that
to us
lift?
all
Is
that we
it
need to be on
lift?
today.
Up.
Okay.
It's an up
Point
kind
taken,
of thing.
Tone.
Yeah, that was Dave Riccio's voice you heard just
You know
then.
what it is, Dave?
Yeah.
It's the Dragons have played like so many days ago that he's forgotten the result
Yes.
and he's up and about.
You know what it is? It's the fact that the Dragons result no longer affects my life. And that's the saddest thing I've ever said. As a Dragon supporter, that is the saddest sentence that has ever come out of my mouth.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
From an ahoy hoy
Now you've
drag
got me
down to
down.
that.
Yeah.
Where do we go from there?
You, with your backwards facing cap, you have dragged me down from
And
a
your
hoy
skateboard
hoy.
under your arm.
Benny Tia, what are you doing, Brian? It actually does look pretty good, the backwards hat.
Oh, you like it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it.
it's
He's just
radical.
come from the skate park. He just came up the road.
Couple
from
of
the skate
kickflips.
park.
Yeah. Sick.
Sick, man.
It's going to be a sick show, guys.
Absolutely. Hey, Benny, I'm just trying to, in my process of getting to know you, better as we get closer. Are you a cricket fan? Have you been watching the Ashes at all? Is that something that enters your realm?
No, can't say I am. I'm all in, just footy.
You're all in footy.
Nothing else.
As a kid,
No
did you
cricket.
play any? Did you play summer sport?
No. I grew up in New Zealand. We just play touch footy. Touch,
Touch footy,
rugby,
and
rugby league. That's it. Nothing else.
Well, you can tell that with their national cricket team, Tone, can't you?
Well, you can't. You got Bazball. That's the New Zealand thing. That's Brendan
Yeah.
McCullum, who's the coach of England, and they're huge. Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave that alone.
He hasn't really, when you, like, stand up for me, Benny.
Okay.
When you sort of,
For those who
when you
haven't, who
analyse
can't
the
see
body
this,
type and the
yeah.
body, he's Tone, he's not built for cricket, brother.
Yeah.
He actually, you know what he looks like?
Tell me.
Have you seen the statues outside of Suncorp Stadium?
Yes.
Have you seen him? There's the great Arthur Beetson there.
Wally
there's
Lewis.
Wally. There's
Yeah.
Lockie. Yeah. Well, he looks like remarkably like the body of Arthur Beetson. Wow. If you ever have a look at it,
Wow.
don't you, Ben?
Fair
I
rap.
do.
And why is that?
Because that's my body, guys.
Whoa. What do you mean? Wait.
Whoa.
You're the body model.
Yeah, I'm the body model for Artie Beetson down there. So one of my
It's uncanny, Tone,
one of
when
the
you look at it
claims-
next to it.
My claim to fame is that, I've got a statue outside Suncorp Stadium. Unfortunately, it's not my head, but it is my body.
No,
From the neck down.
No, back up, Sparky.
Back the truck up.
Beep, 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 beep. What? How the hell did this happen? Is this the truth, or you just?
No, this is the truth. I think it was back in 2011. They came down the QRL and they asked if they could use my body to be a body double. I went down and they sized me up. I had a footy. They had 3D scanners and everything. So if you go down the Artie Beetson, if I was to go down and put my arm and my hand on his hand, it's my measurements. It's my
awesome.
calves, my quads,
Yeah.
my buttocks, my everything.
Yeah,
right?
it's
So
definitely your buttocks.
Yeah.
My calves,
So
my
that's
quads,
me.
my buttocks, my everything is a great song from the 70s.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and you couldn't imagine Artie playing cricket. Well, he would have been good at cricket. He was actually, his hand-eye coordination was exceptional. They
anyway,
reckon,
I've
at
got
tennis
a
and-
statue outside.
That is so
Suncorp.
good.
No biggie. It's no biggie.
No, clearly. Ryan, how do you know this?
Yeah.
You've kind of already done the preemptive strike with this information.
The cricket? How do I know about the cricket?
No,
Well, I just-
about the
I'm looking at
No,
him, Toad, and I'm like,
The
I
Arthur
haven't got
Beetson.
him opening. He's definitely not going to. He's not going to generate any speed with the ball, and he's not an outfielder. Maybe you could put him in slips, just maybe for the ball to hit him to stop it going to the boundary.
He was leaving the skate park. He was just going past the statues there. Someone called me and said, "Yo, looks like Tia."
Benny Beatson.
I love it. He's the skate park guy over here, Ryan Girdler.
Yeah.
Is also sleeping in his van.
Yeah, I am sleeping. I slept in the van last night on the side of the road. Like, Tio lives like 10 minutes away. He won't offer me a driveway. Like, I don't want a bed in his house. Like, oh, mate, come and sleep in my driveway. Instead, I'm, like, parked in the gutter, like, just up the road there. It's uneven. I'll wake up with a headache, you know.
3 in the morning, 16-year-old kids come past shining their phone in there looking, oh, my God, that's Ryan Girdler.
I'm building that relationship tone. So one day he's going to ask me if he's going to allow me to sleep on his driveway.
Do you need power?
Is that going to be too much to
I'll
ask?
charge that.
Just
This long extension cord coming out from your
to
house.
confirm
I've got one of those. I have got one of those.
Good. It's just to confirm for the listeners, you're not sleeping in a little hatchback, are you? Like,
No.
you're not
no, it's a
reclining the
station
driver's
wagon.
seat down.
No, he's got top quality
It's
Mercedes.
a Winnebago.
Yeah. No, it's not a Winnebago. It's it's like a Mercedes Sprinter.
Ah, yes.
So anyway,
Triple M rocking the footy on a Saturday. Tony Squires, Ryan Girdler, Dave Riccio, and Artie Beatson's body with you here on this Saturday afternoon.
you've been stewing on that, Tone, haven't you?
Absolutely. Spoke to Gerds earlier. The expression "weathering the storm." That's exactly what Penrith did yesterday in that game. And Melbourne Storm were all over them for the first, I don't know how long it was, but it was an impressive start. And then suddenly, from nowhere, Ryan Girdler, Penrith came back and were commanding for the back end of that game.
Yeah, they were pretty impressive, boys. I think they started in sort of un-Penrith-like, like with errors, and it just wasn't like they'd brought their usual routine into the contest. And if you go down to Melbourne and you're underprepared and you go out there and offer them opportunities, I mean, they're going to make you pay in that sort of environment. And that's exactly what they did. And that's what made the win so impressive, was because they could start so poorly, Penrith, but sticking to their sort of core principles of what makes them who they are, with like line speed, aggressive running in behind the line, simplified kicking game. They just applied that under pressure. And then they were just, way too good. They just blew the Storm away in that, 34 points to 2 after that 25-minute period. Totally dominant performance. Nathan Cleary didn't play, and Benny, it didn't bother him too much at all.
No, I think they're a system club, right? So they play the same systems coming through the grades, and it feels like anyone can just slot in there and do the job. And Melbourne are usually pretty tough to go down and play at Amy Park, but this game was played at Marvel Stadium, so I thought the Storm weren't like an Amy Park type side. Like, usually they're quite ruthless in that sense down there. But I thought they got off to a great start. I thought, I was impressed by them, but it was those tries between, the last 10 minutes of the first half.
Yep.
It was like 31 minute, 34, 39, where Penrith just came back with 3 quick tries, and you'd know yourself, Ryan, you go into half time scoring 3 tries in the last 10 minutes. If you're the opposition, if you're Melbourne, you'd be pretty worried about the second half. And Penrith were positive to come out, and then they were just clinical. And it was that right-hand side of Melbourne got exposed. That right-hand side with Remus Smith and Will Warbrick. They come up with a couple of misses, and Warbrick got knocked out on one of them by Tago. Yeah, there's a lot of power out there for Penrith.
Isaac Tangor, he is a powerhouse little unit, isn't he?
He's an outstanding game, guys, didn't he? And I don't think we can... I know we wax lyrical a lot about the depth and the production line of the Penrith system, but when you go to Melbourne and deliver a performance like that, I think it really highlights, and it's a real opportunity to put the spotlight on just how extraordinary this footy club is set up at this point in time. That was the 4th win in 20 attempts for Penrith in Melbourne. They don't go there routinely and win. Yet without their halfback, the most consistent halfback in the competition, they get the job done. Melbourne haven't conceded 30 points in 8 years in Melbourne. Penrith go down and do it. And they have this adaptability, and Benny mentioned it, where it doesn't matter who you put in from the production line, they go in and do the job. And that probably speaks to me as a journo when I think about how they've done this with their salary cap, the departures in their squad. the likes of Kickow and Capewell, and there's more obviously, but I won't.
Coruscant, Burton.
And now they're at this point.
Hopgood.
Yep, that's right. And they're at this point in time now with their salary cap guys where a decision has to be made on how much is Jerome Luai worth. He's able to negotiate with rival clubs from November 1. So they're currently in negotiations to re-sign him, but also Dylan Edwards. And so to keep this incredible side together, players take less. But also, if one of those boys were to leave, yes, it would be devastating for the Panthers. But we now know it doesn't really matter.
There's more coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you got to keep Dylan Edwards for mine. I think the keys to that team are Nathan Cleary, Isaiah Yeo, Dylan Edwards, and someone like Liam Martin. I feel and obviously the two front rows, but they're the keys to it. I think they've they've got a production line of wingers and centres and that they're coming through, some 18, 19-year-old kids that can do the job.
And you've also got to think about the coaching staff and the turnover there. Like they've lost Trent Barrett, Serraldo, Webster, so they've turned all these guys out. And we all spoke about over the last couple of years the influence that Serraldo had defensively at that club. Well, they're better defenders. They're defending better this year than they ever have. Yeah, so it doesn't matter who comes in. So the only common denominator in that sense is who? It's got to be Ivan, right?
Yeah.
So he's doing the same as what he's doing with the playing group as what he is doing with the coaching staff. So, and for a quietly spoken guy that doesn't give you a lot of press conferences, there must be a lot going on behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Because Benny, how difficult it is to run all those elements of a footy club, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it just talks to their system, right? Because I think they've got that streamlined system for their players coming through, but also their coaches, and just seamlessly, Ben Gardner stepped in and Peter Wallace has stepped up through the New South Wales Cup system into that attack role. And it's just everyone knows the system right down, and they probably got their next 4 assistant coaches lined up, ready to go, to be honest.
It is quite extraordinary, too, guys, and their fitness levels. That's what's something I've noticed. They had their backs to the wall last night and their backsides hanging out, and they just hung tough and were able to get through it. And just real quickly, we started the season with a huge question mark over how the Panthers would respond without Api Coruscant. Like that, for all the departures, he was the one that we thought, well, if it's going to break down, if this machine is going to break down, it's probably going to be now without the elite dummy half. Mitch Kenny comes in, does the job.
Yeah. I think it's also the way that they chase collision for the whole contest. So sides will go out there and there's that softening up period and everyone's like, 20 minutes. And that's what Melbourne, they kind of won that part of it last night. But if you're going to go on and win against Penrith, you need to, chase the collision for the 80 minutes. And I think, that 1-2 punch they have in the middle, you spoke about their 2 props, their line speed and I don't know how physically, and Dave just spoke about the fitness levels. 2 guys weighing 110 kilos, getting up and back and playing the minutes that they do at the intensity they do. I have no idea how they do that. And then you add like Liam Martin on the side and the form of Sorensen over the last couple of years, and then Isaiah Yeo with the finesse at the back. I mean, the balance that they have to their side and their fitness levels, but for what it is, I reckon they just bully a lot of sides under fatigue. Like sides are like, and I was watching a little bit of the press conference with the Melbourne Storm. And Christian Walsh was like, like they're a good side. Like they just continually come at you. And, as a player in the middle, I would imagine, when you've just got guys relentlessly coming, at some point you're like, oh, are we still there, are we?
Do you think there might have been a little bit of chat from some of the players who played for Penrith last week with Christian Welsh, with who's saying Penrith had nobody and the hot mic moment?
I'm sure they would have used that.
Yeah, absolutely. We obviously, they now sit proudly at that top of that table. Can we just say they are out-and-out favourites for this competition to go 3-peat?
Oh, I think they are.
I think so.
Yeah, I definitely think for everything we've just spoken about, depth is everything. Depth is everything to win the premiership, and they're standing up in the most severe circumstances. It's their starting halfback, the most elite half in the comp as far as consistency is concerned. And just on Nathan, guys, the latest update was received this week. It's aiming for a round 20 return, so only 2 more weeks without Nathan potentially. And that, my friends, Benny T.O., would be a return against the Dolphins for Nathan Cleary.
At KO Stadium.
That's right.
Oh.
The Marvel Stadium idea, I mean, as you said, Benny, Amy Park is such a great place certainly to watch football. As a crowd, you feel you're on top of it, and it's brilliant for Melbourne. It was a bit different under the roof there at Marvel.
Bit different, yeah, and a little bit further away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it's a fortress down there, Amy Park, isn't it? I don't know why you wouldn't want to take it there, but they weren't the same team there.
No, absolutely right. I think they've got another game there, and maybe because there's a clash with the FIFA Women's World Cup, he'll be playing at Amy Park. So there will be another game, whether it's under the roof or not, certainly at Marvel Stadium. I was talking about the Storm playing at Marvel Stadium under the roof there, not at Amy Park. And it is indeed to do with the FIFA Women's World Cup, because basically that competition, as brilliant as it is, takes over those grounds a couple of weeks beforehand. And as I said, I think it's 2 and a bit weeks before we see the first games in the FIFA World Cup. So Amy Park has been basically claimed.
Yep.
Melbourne had to play elsewhere, and the same goes for Suncorp Stadium, as I understand, because tonight's Battle of Brisbane, Brisbane and the Dolphins, is at the Gabba, Benny T.O.
Oh, it's a good one. Obviously missing a couple of stars, Flegler out, Reece Walsh out, Jordan Rickey, but I think it's going to be a big game. It's heating up. Wayne had a few comments there during the week about Reece Walsh. Is he going to learn his lessons? And got to protect the refs, so it adds a little bit of spice there. And think back to earlier rounds in the year when it was such a close game at Suncorp Stadium, and Broncos got the chocolates, but I think this game's a new set of rules, right? A few guys out, so
you're full of good ideas, I understand. So what's your plan in terms of the bragging rights for the winner of the Battle of Brisbane?
Yeah, I think there should be some type of wager on it, and I think maybe we say whoever wins this game, they should fly their flags on Story Bridge and claim Brisbane. That's what I think. Broncos win tonight. All right, Broncos flags on the Story Bridge flapping in the wind. Mm-hmm. If the Dolphins win, it's Dolphins flags. I think both teams could come to that agreement. Put something on it.
I like it. Before we just get on to talking about Manly and their little bit of a signing spree that is underway there, just back to that game, the Nelson Asafa Solomona, that try. I mean, that did my head in, really. I couldn't. Once you go through there, and I'm working out whether they're looking at double movement, whether they're looking at control of the footy. There was hands there. It went for 7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was no try. I thought he lost control. And the fact that Nelson got up, stood up, and he looked like this. Sorry, boys, I've missed an opportunity here.
Yeah.
Look, I just can't believe it. Like, at what point, honestly, we're going to need a shot clock, a time clock
for the bunker.
on the bunker.
Yeah, I think the fact, Dave, that if they send it back down, then it needs to be a no try. The bunker, they can't wait a couple of minutes, go through it so many times, send it back down, and then go through it again. Once they send it back down, it needs to be the decision's made, call it off, no try, and we move on. But yeah, way too long. Way too much momentum lost out of that moment in the game, and that was still at a time, right, where obviously Melbourne were powering forward, and there was just no need for it to. You could see that it was either going to be to some people awarded, to some people not. No one was ever going to agree on it.
Yep.
So then stay with the ref, get it done, and move on.
All right, we're going to move on as well. Manly, the Luke Brooks signing, obviously, during the week. Where did that leave John Schuster, who wanted to play in that number 6 jersey? He has re-signed, though, and will be an edge back rower. Yep. What have you made of these movements this week?
Oh, look, Tone, I'm pretty happy for Luke Brooks. I think it's time. It's time for him to break the shackles of what has happened at West Tigers and for a long time now. I think most Tigers fans would agree that they probably want to see what Luke Brooks has got in another team's jersey because he has been there for so long. The only thing that concerned me was the 4-year length of the contract. I don't know why Manly needed to go to 4 years for Luke Brooks. However, it's a decent signing in my books, and I can't recall Manly going on such a recruitment drive in the space of 1 week as what they did last week with the likes of Luke Brooks, Josh Schuster, a junior ballo from the Roosters as well. So, look, I think it's a good signing. The fact that he gets to play without the pressure on his shoulders alongside Daly Cherry Evans is a major factor. Just quickly on Schuster. Look, I've got my concerns. I've got to admit, at $800,000 a season, Manly have been vehement in declaring that he stayed for less from what he could have got from rival clubs. Geez, I'd like to see those offers from rival clubs. For me, it's a big gamble. It's a big gamble when there's so much money tied up in their cap. Both with the Trebojevic brothers, Daly Cherry Evans, Luke Brooks coming in, and now Josh Schuster at 800.
Well, you're tying up $800,000 in a back rower that's still not proven that he can play that position, because they're different guys. Like you're going to want a back rower who's going to kick chase. He's going to have all those effort areas. He's not going to be able to touch the footy as much. He's got a massive defensive load coming his way in that sense. So I think as he grew up, he looks like a kid that's come through the grades that always played that ball player. He was the biggest kid. He had the silkiest skills. He did what he wanted in attack. But I don't think, in what I have seen from him, I don't think it's something like defensively he's valued that part of the game. And as a back rower, that's your life.
I wonder whether or not, if he gets himself, in the right headspace, he'd be a better 13. Because we've seen the influence 13s have at the game now. Like, that way he could basically play both sides of the ruck, but then he's just going to be in the washing machine defensively, and how much is that going to take out of him? But just on that Luke Brooks deal, Dave, do you think it might have something to do with the fact that, Seabold and Brooks, you spoke about the length of it, have the same management? And do you think sometimes there becomes a conflict of interest with deals like that? Because you're exactly right. If those guys are then dealing with the same manager, the manager's obviously trying to get his player the longest possible deal, but then, the manager is also managing the coach who's making the decision and allowing, essentially his manager to come up with the term that suits him.
No doubt there's a perception of that, Gertz, absolutely, and it's a reasonable assessment. The one thing I come back to is that Anthony Seabold's coaching for his career, and he's coaching for his own journey, and results will ultimately determine his fate. Now, if I'm being pressured by my manager to sign a player, I would think that you'd be strong enough to say, no, I'm the head coach and I actually need to pull my own roster together.
Yep.
Certainly there was an element of that at the Brisbane Broncos, and I've got no doubt that Seabold would have learnt from that experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I come back to my original point. If I'm the head coach, I'd like to think that I'm strong enough to knock a few back, even though I'm being pressured. If that is the case, if that's the case of being pressured.
Dave, were you involved with that 100 Rich 100 list or whatever it was that was published? Yep. So how many back rowers featured in that, and where does this put Schuster in relation to some of the top line back rowers we have in the competition currently?
Well, there's no... This salary going forward will be more than the likes of representative forwards Liam Martin.
What did Kickow get?
Sorry, mate. I was just about to say Pat Carrigan is another one. Still not anywhere near the 800 level. Sorry, with the question about Kickow, he sits at around 750, 800. So,
oh my God!
Wow. Okay.
That's where for me, with that level of intel, I just go. I think this is a major gamble.
So where's the sell? So how can he be sold for more than what those from a management from a company? For more than what those guys are already existing
The
on.
other big factor too, guys, is players' salaries, once they hit a mark, they rarely come backwards.
Yeah.
And so what is going to happen at Manly with Schuster is if he does deliver and shuts us all up, he's actually going to go more. He's going to get to 9, 1, 1.1, 1.2.
Well, Fafita came back.
David
Brooks came back.
Yeah, very rare, Gertz. Very rare.
Yeah, I think internally, someone in the organisation must have the confidence that this kid is the real deal and that he's going to come good and that he's going through a couple of growing pains at the moment, but they must see something special there.
Yep.
And it must be special because to pay that type of money, all right, so maybe they're being patient. Maybe they think he can grow into that.
Yeah. Is the salary cap at Manly being stretched at all?
Well, yeah, look, you'd point to their dummy half isn't a recognised, highly paid dummy half. With great respect, I'm a big fan of Croker. He's a hard worker, plays well, but he is not in the top echelon and therefore not highly paid. And then you actually move through their outside backs again. Parker, Garrick, they're not top echelon. So that maybe the spread of the salary cap is through, what is it? Jake Trebojevic, Tom Trebojevic, Daly Cherry Evans. They're the highest paid. Now Schuster and Luke Brooks.
All right, well, money aside, Luke Brooks, I think will learn plenty next to Daly Cherry Evans, who has been the back end of his career as he gets older, has been nothing short of sensational. Obviously, when he pulls on the maroon jersey, he's brilliant. They're maroon both cases, aren't they?
Yeah.
Good. That's the sad truth of it. Many people would think that.
They're always, the romantic part is, they're always very special moments. And I would imagine that there's going to be some debutantes coming in at some point to this one, and it's going to be very special, and it's playing in front of New South Wales home fans. So it is going to mean a lot to these guys and obviously the coaching staff. But fact of the matter is, we can't do much about, the series. It's over.
Yep.
So therefore it is a dead rubber, Tony, yeah.
How many people are going to get out there at a call?
Look, time will tell, and the team will tell.
Yep.
Like the selections will be key to that. If you got to sell hope. You have to sell hope in sport, and the New South Wales team selection will be key to that. Whether the Blues fans believe that they can go and show some fight and some spirit for this state. So I think it'll come down to team selections. Whether it gets to a sellout 80,000, I don't think so, Tone.
Dave Riccio, this season as a New South Wales and a St George fan, I'm not buying hope. It's really, honestly.
Could imagine, mate.
It doesn't work for me. All right, Benny Teo, let's start with you. Queensland, what changes? There's a couple of injuries that will mean, and obviously a suspension with Reece Walsh. What are you thinking?
Well, things are going pretty well at the moment, so no need to change too much. Obviously, for Reece Walsh, I would personally go with AJ Brimson. I think, Billy showed by bringing him into camp. He was 18th man for the last game. I think that's a natural selection, and he gives you a lot of that excitement at the back. One change I would make is Cobbo. I'd bring Cobbo back. Now he's fit. I'd bring him back onto the wing for Xavier Coates. So Coates would make way for him. And
what's the difference there, Benny?
I just think your backfield yardage carries. I think Cobbo's a guy who's got a strong carry. He can finish, but he really enjoys that part. And I think Cobbo's, he's built for Origin. Yeah, that's his game. And the last one, obviously, Flegler with an injury, he's out. And our favourite ranger comes in, Corey Horsburgh, who just deserves it and fits Origin like no one else. I just think he's got all the ingredients for it. He's just fiery, he loves it, he's confrontational, and I think it's his opportunity. He deserves it.
You're replacing like with like, so two redheads.
Yeah. You've got to keep the fire.
Horsburgh's played with tremendous consistency, and I thought last weekend was a great telltale sign of where this kid has come from in his development as a footy player against the Sydney Roosters. So Jared Warrior-Hargraves and Lindsay Collins up front for the Chooks. And Horsburgh and the Raiders got the job done. He was terrific that night. And he's just played with so much consistency. All my mail suggests that he only needs to get through today's game against the Gold Coast Titans, and it'll be Horsburgh to replace Flegler.
Okay, just on one of those elements we're talking about there, the Reece Walsh, AJ Brimson going in for him. Was Kalen Ponga, was there a phone call to him saying, are you sure? Yep. Do you want to run around?
Yeah, there was. Billy Slater gave Kalen a call midweek. As soon as the Reece Walsh suspension dropped, and it was clear that Queensland needed a new fullback for Game 3, Billy rang Kalen, and look, I've got to say to Kalen's credit, it would have been easy to... It's a pretty hard thing to say no to the Queensland coach.
Yep.
When he's offering a jersey to you. But Kalen said, look, I'm going to stick to my word. I gave my word to, Newcastle that I'd sit out this series and play for them. And I think you got to respect that. So that's where AJ Brimson, he was the 18th man in Game 2. And key to that, guys, at training, as far as the Maroons are concerned, that they purposely put Brimson in at fullback and sat Reece Walsh out for several training sessions. Just because it's, that's you never know what's coming next. If Reece
knew he's going to get suspended.
There you go. There you go. So he's ready to go, AJ Brimson.
All right.
Again, dare I say it, needs to get through today's game.
Yeah, correct. All right, let's flip the page then. On the Blues, Ryan Girdler, what are you thinking? Are you picking to win this game only, or are you picking to look ahead to next season?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think you also need to bring in, rewarding people that deserve. I mean, representative, like, what is it? When you think about what it is, it's essentially rewarding people that are playing really well in the NRL. And I think incumbency and loyalty is really important on the back of success. But if you're not having success and you're not rewarding people and you're picking people on reputation, well, then what does it become? That's a deep question.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
Okay, let me sit with that for a second. I don't know.
with you, brother.
I don't know where that came from.
just
But
get-
anyway.
Need some backing music for this.
Yeah.
That was
Anyway.
a bomb.
Anyway.
The Gertz bomb.
Where were we?
I don't know.
Okay, I was going to pick
What
this
team
up.
you picking, Gertz?
Pick the side.
So yeah, like without obviously, I really with no disrespect to anyone that I'm leaving out and what they've done for the jersey, but I believe it's time that we pick some guys that have been knocking down the door, and also I think one of the main parts is like I don't think. I think we've obviously been really competitive in those opening, well, especially in the opening game, and for the majority of that second game. And I've spoken about it ad nauseum on this program. It's like, we've been dominant through the middle and we haven't converted opportunity. So I'm looking for those positions. So for the guys that actually, get the football in those situations that they've been given, and whether it's the game plan, which has probably got something to do with it, but it's also the individual not finding a way outside of the structure to get their job done. And that is score points. And that's an important part of Origin, to take those opportunities. So on that note, Tony.
Yes, okay.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
I've got Edwards at the back. I give him an opportunity.
So
He
Teddy's
needs an
gone.
opportunity. He's been knocking down the door. Yeah, look, 21 Origins, unbelievable career. Might come back next year. But for this game, I just believe that, we need to see Dylan Edwards rewarded for the last couple of years. And we've lost 4 of the last 5 games and was it, 3 of the last 4 series or whatever. So if not now, when?
Yep.
He's not a young guy anymore.
You just think Tedesco's form's off, Gertz?
Well, I just think that as a fullback, on the back of the opportunities that have been created, as I said before, Dave, like with the forwards and the momentum and the amount of possession we've had, we haven't been able to convert those opportunities. So if we don't change things and we go in with the same game plan and the same players, why are we going to expect a different result? We need to find a way to break down their defence and score some points. So I'd give someone else a crack in some of those key positions. So I'd give Edwards a go at the back, Toto on the wing with Addo Carr. Crichton would remain in the centres. I'd bring Campbell Graham in. I don't think he's going to be available, or I don't think he can be picked after having a little bit of time off and taking injury in. So I would bring in Isaac Tonga, who's been in sensational form, give him an opportunity. Hines and Walker, for me, look, it's hard to ignore, what Cody Walker did the other night. And I think on the back of that performance, I'd probably look to bring Cody into the team. I think he's a guy on the back of really good field position that just makes things happen. And I've seen him do it at every level, where for me, I just think with Nico at this point, I probably haven't seen him deliver special moments against quality opposition enough as I would like to. And you can see that with the Sharks record this year. So I would give Cody another opportunity. I keep Mitch in there. I put Haas and I bring Jake in to the front row. I would keep Robson at dummy half. Liam Martin would start on the left. Kaloa Matangi comes in on the right. And I would keep Isaiah Yeo at 13. And then on the bench, on the back of what we saw last night with South Sydney, Damien Cook coming on after 20 minutes. I mean, Freddie must have had a tear in his eye. Yes. He just tore the Warriors pack apart after 20 minutes.
That's what I was trying to do.
And we had to play him in the centres, exactly.
Yes.
So I think that combination with Robson. But I also think if you bring Cook on after about 20, 25 minutes along with Murray, that combination, fresh legs through the middle, I think that could do some really good damage there with a combination. Then also the way that they will play interplay with Walker, it might be an opportunity for New South Wales to crack that Maroon defence. And then I would have Barlaw and Burton would come in on the bench as a utility player.
Wow. You've had a bit of time to think about this, lying around in your camper van outside Ben Tio's place with your head down,
Tony,
lower than your feet.
All I do is think about the greatest game of all.
You do.
Well,
that is all I do, full
in
stop.
all seriousness, and I touched on it, New South Wales have a responsibility to actually sell New South Wales fans hope. And I've got to say, if that side ran out, I'd be glued to my telly to see how Dylan Edwards goes, how Cody Walker goes with Mitchell Moses, Keon Kalaamatangi, Burton off the. That's Isaac Dungo in the centres. That's a side you want to watch.
I think Spencer Linu.
Yeah.
He's
maybe
someone
him and
who
Barlaw.
I could see him coming off
Yeah.
the bench on Origin and just like a firecracker. Just I think that's.
I
his
can't
go.
believe he hasn't played already, Benny. Honestly, like if we're looking at the style of what Origin is, and it's all power and explosiveness,
Yeah.
is he not one of the most explosive bench forwards in the game?
Absolutely.
Well, you saw what he did last night for Penrith, right? I mean, they were down 14-0 before, him and his big mate came on, and they just flipped the switch. So, yeah, he's a guy that could definitely be in there, and he's made for Origin as well.